The top stories tonight in Y News. Lawmakers are urging the Commission on Elections to reconsider its plan to prohibit face-to-face campaign for the 2022 polls.
Russia's Sputnik V vaccine shows 91.6% efficacy in a peer-reviewed study.
The country's Department of Health notes that a 5% wastage of COVID-19 vaccines is still acceptable.
And dozens of hospital workers across Myanmar stopped working as part of a growing civil disobedience campaign against the military. Good evening, Philippines and the world. Today is Wednesday, February 3, 2021. I am Harleen Delgado.
Join us in the next hour as we deliver today's top stories around the country and in other parts of the world. I'm Angelo Castro III.
We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide through the UNTV News and Rescue social media accounts and our website, untvweb.com. I am William Theo.
First in the news. Some lawmakers are calling on the Commission on Elections to reconsider its earlier proposal to prohibit the conduct of face-to-face campaign for the 2022 elections in the country. Senator Francis Pangilinan says banning the physical campaign is too restrictive. The senator suggests to prohibit only the large gatherings and allow small meetings provided that health protocols are strictly observed. Bayan Muna Party List Representative Carlos Zarate said prohibiting the face-to-face campaigns would only favor the rich candidates who can afford campaigning through online and media advertisements. The congressman believes if this happens, the next elections would just become a contest for the rich and famous. COMELEC spokesperson James Jimenez explains they are still studying the proposal, which will be decided by the Interagency Task Force against COVID-19.
An outright ban might be a bridge too far. It might be very difficult to actually impose or enforce an outright ban, you know. But certainly there will be a lot of restrictions in place, or maybe working in concert with guidelines.
National Action Plan against COVID-19 and Vaccine Czar Secretary Carlito Galvez Jr. says he will discuss the election matters with the COMELEC.
Talaga pong nakikita po natin na malaki po yun na challenge at risk yung magkakaroon po ng mga face-to-face na crowd gathering. Nakikita po natin na yung pagkakampanya po, it will enhance yung close contact with different people.
COMELEC is eyeing online campaigning as an alternative. Jimenez assures included in their study is how to ensure that all candidates will be given equal online airtime. The COMELEC official adds they will coordinate with various social media platforms such as Facebook and Twitter to address concerns on possible disinformation.
So the COMELEC might have to look into how we can guarantee online airtime, essentially, you know, for everyone, para level playing field. Hindi naman pwedeng iilang kandidato lang ang may access sa internet kasi sila lang may magandang connection, sila lang yung nakaka-afford, or sila lang yung nakakagawa ng slick ads. We're moving away slowly from in-person campaigning. Gusto nating ma-minimize yun. Online is only a viable alternative if everyone gets to play.
Russia's homegrown Sputnik V vaccine showed high levels of efficacy and safety in a peer-reviewed study. Philippine officials are now expecting to release the results of its emergency use authorization application in the country this month. Aiko Miguel tells us why.
A preliminary analysis of a large-scale clinical trial published in the British medical journal The Lancet demonstrated that the Sputnik V vaccine was 91.6% effective in preventing symptomatic COVID-19 and offered complete protection against severe cases. There were no serious side effects, the paper said. The vaccine was also found to be similarly safe and effective in elderly people. The Department of Health and the National Task Force Against COVID-19 embraced the new finding as a good news.
So ito pong 91% na efficacy and 100% protection, no? Ito po ay magandang balita at sana nga po tayo ay magkaroon ng ganitong bakuna rin, kasama ng mga ibang bakuna to provide additional protection for our population.
Welcome po ito, news, considering that the news came from Lancet, very peer review. And nakita rin po natin na itong Sputnik ay nagagamit na rin po sa more than 18 countries sa ngayon. Talagang yung mga third world countries they are working with the Sputnik. And
according to Food and Drug Administration Director General Eric Domingo, this will also help fast-track the decision on their emergency use authorization or EUA submitted in the country.
Nakakadagdag lang kasi tayo ng confidence kasi alam natin, for example, pag na-publish siya sa Lancet, which is a peer-reviewed journal, na nabasa na rin ito ng mga ibang expert bago siya pinayagan na ma-publish sa kanilang journal. So, nakakatulong yon na nagpapabilis ng ating evaluation kesa yung raw form ng reports ang ibigay sa atin.
DJ Domingo said they will possibly release their decision on Gamaleya's EUA application this month.
Ayoko din naman napapatagal na whether approved or disapproved. Gusto natin madesisyonan pero ayoko lang madiliin yung ating mga expert hanggang may katanungan sila at maaari namang sagutin and sagutin satisfactorily, no? I want to make sure na wala lahat ng doubts at lahat ng questions sa settled before we make a decision. But yes, I do want to finish it within the month of February.
Once FDA approves it, Gamaleya will be the third vaccine manufacturer that will be granted with an EUA. It was on January 14 when Pfizer was granted with an EUA in the Philippines, while AstraZeneca was granted with an EUA last January 28. All the details about a COVID-19 vaccine with an approved EUA can be viewed at the FDA's website. The FDA advises the public to wait patiently for COVID-19 vaccines and avoid getting sick and going outdoors for unnecessary things. Authorities also warn the public to not patronize those who are offering COVID-19 vaccines, for there are no COVID-19 vaccines approved to be sold yet in the market. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Meanwhile, 4 government hospitals in Metro Manila will be the first to receive the first batch of Pfizer-BioNTech vaccines that will arrive in the country this month. Meanwhile, a lawmaker is urging the government to release in public its COVID-19 vaccine priority list. Rosalie Cos will tell us why.
Employees of 4 government hospitals in Metro Manila will be receiving the first batch of coronavirus vaccines that will arrive in the country this month. This includes the Philippine General Hospital, Lung Center of the Philippines, East Avenue Medical Center, and Jose N. Rodriguez Memorial Hospital and Sanitarium or Tala Hospital. 117,000 doses of Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine will be arriving in the country through the COVAX facility.
Hindi na po tayo magtatagal na kunyari gawin lang natin, inspectin lang natin na 2 to 3 days at ituturo po natin kaagad dyan. Uunahin po natin yung 4 na referral hospitals natin dito sa Metro Manila.
Medical health workers in other COVID-19 referral hospitals in Cebu City and Davao City will be next in line to receive the vaccine. Meanwhile, Senator Risa Ontiveros has urged the release of the priority list for the government's vaccination program. The lady senator believes the list will help prevent confusion and speed up the inoculation process once vaccine supplies arrive in the country. The health department meanwhile said they are still finishing the master list.
Hindi pa po ito kumpleto and we gave the facilities until February 15 para lang po ma-validate uli nila ang mga naisumite nilang mga listahan.
Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Philippine General Hospital, or PGH, said that it is aiming to vaccinate its 5,000 employees against the coronavirus disease within 1 week. PGH spokesperson Dr. Jonas Del Rosario said that employees may decline to avail of the COVID-19 vaccines. The PGH official also said the vaccination campaign will not be extended to the immediate families of the employees.
The Department of Health noted that it is inevitable to have vaccine wastage in a large-scale immunization. Meanwhile, the DOH assures that the easing of quarantine restrictions in the country won't be anchored on the COVID-19 vaccination coverage. Aiko Miguel explains why.
The Department of Health emphasized that wastage of COVID-19 vaccines should be avoided as much as possible. But if not, a 5% wastage rate is still acceptable.
Ang wastage po should be as minimal as possible, especially for these COVID-19 vaccines. Every dose will count because of these COVID-19 vaccines, which is needed badly by all of us Filipinos.
A vaccine wastage may happen when a person listed to be inoculated suddenly backs out. Second, an eligible individual could not receive it due to medical conditions on the day of inoculation. Someone eligible has to receive it to avoid wastage. Third, improper administration of a healthcare worker or improper preparation. According to the DOH, this can be all avoided if all are well prepared in the vaccination plan of the government.
Paano ba natin mape-prevent yan? Kailangan talaga preparado po ang ating mga facilities to provide the vaccines. We can be able to store the vaccines properly. We can be able to provide the vaccines properly, prepare it properly para po walang nasasayang na doses. Kailangan po din ready po yung mga distribution kits natin para hindi po nasisira ang bakuna.
The DOH also emphasized there are factors being considered by the government in the easing or restricting of quarantine protocols. Main factors being considered are still the number of COVID-19 cases, transmission rate, and the country's healthcare system capacity. The Department of Health clarified that although the inoculation program of the government already starts, this is not a concrete basis to ease the quarantine protocols, especially in Metro Manila.
The Interagency Task Force has a set of parameters that they use para makapag-desisyon tayo kung nag-iisang restrictions o mas hinihigpitan natin. Yan po yung pangunahin, no? Na tinitignan natin yung numero ng mga kaso at saka yung mga healthcare utilization natin. Ito pong pagbabakuna, it's just going to be an add-on factor, no, na mas makakatulong, no, sa pagdedesisyon natin. But we cannot rely on the vaccination of the populace para masabi natin if we can ease the restrictions or not at this point.
DOH spokesperson Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergere adds, an individual should still observe health protocols even if he or she has been inoculated with COVID-19 vaccine. The official says COVID-19 vaccine gives additional protection against the disease and not a magic pill.
We know that these vaccines, wala pa ho tayong ebidensya that it can block transmission, and we know that itong mga bakuna will only reach their potential benefit kapag naka 2 doses na tayo. So marami po tayong konsiderasyon for this immunization.
Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The country's COVID-19 cases topped 530,000 today after the Department of Health confirmed 1,266 more infections. The official tally now stands at 530,118, of which 31,455, or 5.9%, are active cases. According to the DOH, this does not yet include the latest data from 7 testing laboratories which failed to submit on time. The nationwide death toll also rose to 10,942, with 68 new fatalities, including 19 who were previously tagged as recoveries. Meanwhile, 130 more survivors pushed the recovery count to 487,721.
And for those watching us on YouTube, please click the subscribe button you see on the right side of your screen and ring the bell for notification. You may also follow us on Facebook.
One person has died following an ammonium leak from an ice plant in Navotas City. According to Mayor Toby Tiangco, the City Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Office reported that the fatality was among the 61 persons who were rushed to the hospital. As of now, the valve that caused the leak has been closed. Mayor Tiangco says it would take 2 to 3 hours before the odor coming from ammonia subsides. Food packs have also been prepared for the affected residents. The Department of Agriculture will shoulder transportation costs and provide logistics for hog shipments to Metro Manila while the price cap of pork and chicken is in effect. Meanwhile, a consumer advocacy group is calling on the public to do a pork holiday. Ray Pelayo explains why.
The Department of Agriculture is eager to increase the hog production and revive the industry and reduce prices of pork in retail markets in the country. With this, the department has decided to provide transportation support for 60 days to help racers and traders bring their hogs and pork products from Visayas and Mindanao to key markets in Metro Manila. Agriculture Assistant Secretary Christine Evangelista said they will use the sea freight vessels of the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources to transport hogs, and this is free of charge. Further, the DA is now coordinating with the logistics sector and other concerned agencies, particularly the Department of Interior and local government, on the implementation of the special hog lanes or food highways to ensure the continuous and unhampered flow of pork and other agri-fishery products to and from Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao.
Kaya natin aakuin ang logistics, ang transport, no, para mabawasan ang cost, while we are also trying to address the other costs po na ina-experience ng ating mga hog racers.
DA will start implementing the price ceiling on some pork and chicken products on February 8 after President Duterte signed the Executive Order 124. DA said they will allow the retailers to dispose all their stocks that bought in a high price. Under EO 124, a price ceiling of 270 pesos per kilogram for kasim, pigi, 300 kilogram for liempo, and 160 pesos per kilogram for dressed chicken will be implemented for 60 days in Metro Manila.
Dito po papasok yung grace period natin, sir, to give them enough time to adjust, and they gave us naman the reassurance na talaga naman pong mag-a-adjust sila ng presyo at makikipagtulungan po sila sa atin.
Meanwhile, Attorney Vic Nimagiba, President of Laban Consumer Group, said their pork holiday campaign will be more effective in decreasing the pork prices in the market.
So maganda ito. Dalawang grupo ng sektor ng industriya would like to exercise their market power with one objective lang yan eh. Objective lang naman yan is to ensure na ang mga consumer ay may access sa basic goods at reasonable prices.
Members of the Congress and officials from the DA and DTI are expected to conduct inspections of prices of meat products in some markets in Metro Manila. Ray Pelayo, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
The Toll Regulatory Board is mulling over the deployment of its marshals in toll plazas to monitor the compliance of tollway operators with a shift to cashless transactions. TRB will also implement a three-strike policy against motorists abusing the new toll collection system. Joanano tells us why.
As part of the government's effort to improve the implementation of cashless transactions in all expressways, the Toll Regulatory Board has come up with the minimum performance standards that the toll operators should comply with. And to monitor their compliance, the TRB will be deploying toll marshals to observe and report the developments in the implementation of the cashless transaction through the RFID system.
Mag-field na po kami ng toll marshals doon sa mga plazas natin para bantayan yung mga operators kung nagko-comply dun sa kanilang mga obligasyon under their agreement dun sa tollway operations nila with TRB.
Meanwhile, the TRB will also be imposing the three-strike policy to discipline those abusive motorists who passes through the RFID lanes for multiple times even if they don't have their load with their RFID sticker. Under the three-strike policy, motorists who will use the RFID lanes even if they have insufficient or no load, violators will only be reminded for the first offense. But on the second offense, violators will be issued with a warning, while on the third offense, motorists will be penalized. TRB explains that this will be considered as an obstruction, and under the Land Transportation's fine and penalties on obstruction cost 1,000 pesos. The toll operators welcome this proposed policy, saying that this will help to promote the use of RFID system and to encourage the motorists to be responsible to load their RFID accounts regularly so as not to cause inconvenience to others.
It's quite bad. Napansin namin na nagkakaroon ng bottleneck doon sa mga exit lanes namin. Babalik namin yung discipline ng mga RFID users para hindi naman makuha yung yung mga religiously na naglo-load sa atin sa mga RFID users natin.
The motorists will have to be aware that entering the tollway, without the sufficient load causes inconvenience naman doon sa payment lane, doon sa mga toll gates na magbabayad, because you actually hamper those who are behind you. So the idea is really to promote awareness, intensify awareness, so that people will be encouraged to load the accounts properly.
The TRB has yet to release the final guidelines on this proposed policy as to when and how they are going to impose the regulations. Joanano, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Authorities rescued 2 women and arrested 4 persons, including an American, during an operation against a Cybersex ring in Angeles City, Pampanga. Leah Ilagan report.
Members of the City Police Regional Anti-Cybercrime Unit 3 and other police units conducted an operation against a cybersex ring in Barangay Malabañas, Angeles City, Pampanga. The operation resulted to the arrest of Easton Scott Sanderson, an American national, and 3 Filipinos. According to PNP ACG Region 3 Chief, Police Lieutenant Colonel Nelvin Rico Hermoso, the rescued women, both aged 19, are locals who were initially recruited for modeling but ended up being actors in a sex show.
Modeling yung front at yung nakasulat din doon sa kanilang kontrata. Pero pag andun na sila sa kwarto, nagiging iba na yung activity, nagkakaroon na sexual intercourse. At doon, yung ibang kasamang Pilipino, sila yung nagbibideo.
Rico Hermoso further said, charges are now being prepared against the suspects.
Sinapa natin sila ng violation of Republic Act 10364, yung Anti-Human Trafficking Act, in relation to Section 6 of Republic Act 10175, yung Cybercrime Prevention Act of 2012. So yun yung mga violations na nakumit ng ating mga suspects.
In a statement, PNP Chief Debold Sina said the PNP will go after the traffickers who prey on women for sex exploitation. Sinas also urged the public to report to the police any similar activities in their area. Leah Ilagan, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Department of the Interior and Local Government, or DILG, is set to conduct a dialogue with officials of the University of the Philippines, or UP, this week to review their 1992 agreement, which requires police to coordinate with the school's administration before entering UP campuses. DILG Undersecretary Jonathan Malaya issued a statement on Tuesday to refute reports that the department will unilaterally abrogate the agreement without consulting UP officials. He said they called for a meeting in response to the request of UP officials for a dialogue to address the concerns of the department in the spirit of justice, mutual trust, and the pursuit of excellence. The National Bureau of Investigation has opted to take its time in conducting its probe on the death of flight attendant Christine Dacera. Meanwhile, the respondents are hoping for an early resolution on the case. Dante Amento tells us why.
The National Bureau of Investigation has yet to submit their full report to the Department of Justice on the cause of death of Christine Dacera. Justice Secretary Minardo Guevarra stressed that the NBI is not rushing its report as they want all bases covered in its investigation. Guevarra has also expressed confidence that the NBI will be able to submit its report before the preliminary investigation is terminated. He said that as soon as he receives the NBI report on Dacera's case, he will immediately transmit it to the investigating prosecutor in the Makati City office. The DOJ chief assured not to interfere in the prosecutor's appreciation of the evidences. Meanwhile, the 11 respondents were all present during second preliminary investigation of the case today. Ray Ingles legal counsel attorney Raymond Martilino believes that his client will be exonerated for lack of probable cause to indict him.
Innocent, and this case should be dismissed.
The PNP has not submitted additional evidences and still failed to present the toxicology report.
Aside from the toxicology report, wala. Nasubmit na namin yung pieces of evidence na kaya namin isubmit on our level.
The lawyers of the complainant asked time to file their reply affidavit on the next hearing this coming February 11. Attorney Mike Santiago, lawyer of the 5 respondents, hopes for the resolution of the case afterwards. The medical legal reports by the PNP were allegedly sufficient to prove that there was no crime on the Dacera's death.
Ay inaasahan natin na sana pagkatapos ng February 11, mag-submitted na for resolution itong kaso na to kasi maliwanag naman yung findings ng ating PNP Crime Laboratory as to the cause of death.
Complainant Sharon Dacera was not able to attend and she was just represented by her lawyer, attorney Jose Leda. Dante Amento, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
For those watching us on YouTube, please click the subscribe button you see on the right side of your screen and ring the bell for notification. You may also follow us on Facebook.
And for the news abroad. Staff at dozens of hospitals across Myanmar stopped working as part of a growing civil disobedience campaign, one of the first organized acts of defiance against the military after it ousted the elected government of Aung San Suu Kyi. Early Briones will tell us why live. Early?
Good evening, Kat. Health workers in 70 hospitals and medical departments in Naypyidaw, Yangon, and other towns and cities said they would not work under the military regime, accusing the generals of placing their own priorities above those of ordinary people during the pandemic. A Facebook page coordinating the campaign named Myanmar Civil Disobedience Movement accumulated nearly 150,000 followers in just 24 hours. Doctors are instead treating patients in their homes and at private clinics, and All Burma Federation of Students Union has also urged other government workers to strike. On Tuesday night, the clanging of pots and pans echoed through the main city of Yangon as people took to their balconies in a symbolic protest against the military. On social media, many adopted red profile pictures to sign their loyalty to Aung San Suu Kyi. Aung San Suu Kyi's party, National League for Democracy, has called for her release and urged the military to acknowledge the results of November's election, which the NLD won by a landslide. As a public action to resist the military has emerged, the military has issued a warning in the state-controlled Global New Light of Myanmar newspaper. The English-language statement read, "Some of the media organizations and people are posting rumors on social media, releasing statements to occur riot and unstable situation. It called on people not to make such moves and to cooperate with the government in accordance with existing laws." The Army's actions have been met with a growing chorus of international condemnation, although the options are limited for those nations hoping Myanmar's generals might reverse course. Kat?
Thank you, Early, for that report. A bushfire raging outside Western Australia's capital city has forced residents to evacuate as the city remains in a COVID-19 lockdown. Marvi Delfin will give us the details live from Perth, Australia. Marvi, how is the emergency situation there?
Kath, Perth has entered the third day of a bushfire emergency with hundreds of Aussies spending the past few nights in evacuation centers as a bushfire on the outskirts of the lockdown city of Perth continues to grow. This is the largest blaze the city has seen in years, burning through 9,000 hectares and destroying more than 71 homes. So far, 6 out of more than 500 firefighters have suffered injuries, and they are expecting further challenging conditions tonight and tomorrow, with gusts of up to 70 kilometers per hour, temperatures over 30 degrees Celsius, and dry conditions. The Department of Fire and Emergency Services has called on communities in the path of the blaze to prepare to leave their homes now and take shelter somewhere else, although for some residents it was too late to leave. Although WA state officials have urged people to prioritize their immediate safety over the virus risk, which is considered very low, people are still required to wear masks and self-isolate where possible at evacuation centers. The city of 2 million people entered a snap 5-day lockdown on Sunday after the first local COVID-19 infection in Western Australia in 10 months was discovered. A security guard working in quarantine hotels tested positive for the highly transmissible UK variant of COVID-19. WA Premier Mark McGowan has described the state as facing dual crisis, a dangerous emergency and a COVID-19 lockdown emergency. Australian Defence Force assets were sent to the state yesterday to help fight the fires, with other federal assets on standby if needed. Kath?
Marvi, what has been the disaster recovery effort so far?
Kath, the federal government announced today measures to support people in Western Australia affected by the devastating bushfires. Natural Disaster and Emergency Management Minister David Littleproud said those people whose homes had been lost or damaged will be able to access disaster payments, and that it was time for the eastern states to reciprocate the support Western Australia offered during last year's Black Summer bushfires. The payments offer 1,000 Australian dollars per adult and 400 Australian dollars per child, available from 8 a.m. tomorrow. Kath, we are expected to hear further announcements between the federal government and the WA state government in relation to the fire effort. Back to you, Kath.
All right, thank you, Marvi, reporting live from Perth, Western Australia. The Biden administration announced that they will boost the access to COVID-19 vaccines in the country. Joselito Liquido reports.
U.S. President Joe Biden announced to expand access to COVID-19 vaccines, which will give more doses for states and be distributed into retail pharmacies next week. According to the White House, 1 million doses is expected to be distributed in some 6,500 pharmacies across the country. Likewise, the Biden administration is also increasing the weekly allocation of vaccines by 500,000. Jeff Zients, the coronavirus coordinator, announced the moves Tuesday morning and detailed to the public in an afternoon news conference.
This is a critical step to provide the public with convenient, trusted places to get vaccinated in their communities.
The White House said that the ultimate goal was to distribute the vaccines through more than 40,000 pharmacies nationwide. Latest data from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention shows that COVID-19 cases in the country has reached more than 26 million, while about 441,000 people have died from the disease. Joselito Liquido, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
SpaceX's second full test flight of its futuristic bullet-shaped Starship ended in another fiery crash landing. Elon Musk's company launched its latest Starship prototype from the southeastern tip of Texas 2 months after the previous test ended in an equally explosive belly flop. The full-scale stainless steel rocket reached its intended altitude of 10 kilometers, slightly lower than the last one. Everything seemed to be going well as the 160 feet Starship flipped on its side and began its descent. But it did not manage to straighten itself back in time for a landing and slammed into the ground. Tuesday's test lasted 6.5 minutes. The Federal Aviation Administration, which regulates rocket launches, announced that it will oversee an investigation of why the prototype crashed. Musk is developing Starship to carry people to Mars, perhaps in as little as several years. It's the upper stage of his intended Moon and Mars ships meant to launch atop a mega rocket called Super Heavy that is still being developed. And those are the reasons behind the news in other parts of the globe. I am Kat Dumaraos. For those watching us on YouTube, please click the subscribe button you see on the right side of your screen and ring the bell for notification. You may also follow us on Facebook.
And those are the reasons behind the news, February 3, 2021. I am Jorlene Delgado.
Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I'm Angelo Castro III.
Because we need to know, we will always ask why. I am William Theo. We serve the people. We give glory to God.